Shower steamers are crazy expensive, but they're super easy to make and they're really cheap. The ingredients are basically everywhere, except for the star of the show, which is menthol. If you don't have menthol, don't bother making them. If somebody's telling you to make them with essential oils, don't waste your time. They won't do anything. You need the menthol in there to get that vapor, steam, that clears your sinuses, all that good stuff. So what you want to do is load it to about 4 to 5% of your total weight with menthol. And for this recipe, that's about 15 grams. I put it into a glass jar because, if you haven't noticed, it's a crystal, and to use in the recipe, we need to turn it into a liquid. The best way to do that is to mix it with essential oils, and what better to mix menthol with than eucalyptus? In fact, I'm mixing it with a bit of mint, a peppermint, and a eucalyptus. And what you want for essential oils is about 1 to 2% of your total weight of recipe. In this case, that works out to right around 5 grams, so I'm gonna go 50-50 with peppermint and eucalyptus. Like I said, these aren't really gonna do much for the shower steamer itself, but they end up adding to the consistency and texture that we need to get it to mold and to dissolve our menthol, most important. All right, so I got my 5 grams of essential oils in there, and the way to dissolve it is easy. You just throw it in the microwave, do it for maybe 10 to 15 seconds at a time. You don't want this exploding in the microwave. And it should come out as a clear liquid. If there's still bits floating around, throw it back in for a few more seconds. At this point, you want to cap it and set it aside. It's going to be really potent, so you want to preserve all that in the jar. All right, now to the steamers themselves. Super easy, baking soda, it's everywhere. I think this came from Dollar Tree or something like that. All we need is 1 cup, and what the baking soda does is gives that kind of steamy, volcano-y effect. When the water hits it, it'll fizzle out and release the menthol into the air. So there's your cup of baking soda. Next up is the citric acid, and what that does is similar to the baking soda, it gives it that steamy kind of fizzy effect and works together with the baking soda. So we need a 1/3 cup of that, dump it in. And then lastly, a 1/4 cup of cornstarch. This just helps bind everything and cakes it and makes it into that hard puck. I like to mix everything in a stainless steel bowl, that way it's not leaching into the plastic. All right, there's the 1/4 cup of cornstarch, so we have everything in there. Next thing to do is to add the menthol and the essential oils. I just make sure that there's no clumps, break it up with your hand a little bit, get it nice and powdery. So when you add in the liquids, you want to spread it out as much as possible. Don't just dump it in the middle so that it cakes up into a ball. Kind of swirl it around in a circle. And then what's important after this is not to just stick your hand in there and start mixing right away, because what'll happen is you'll get the essential oils mostly on your glove. Kind of go around the perimeter of the bowl and dust it on top to cover it. That way, when you start mixing it, you're only touching dry powder and you're not getting liquid all over your hand. So the mix is crucial, it's really important. It's going to take quite a bit of mixing and it's going to feel like you're not really getting anywhere, that it's just staying a dry powder, but you're not looking for this to get wet. The consistency you want is when you take a handful of sand that's almost dry but just a little bit wet and you squeeze it together and it holds its shape, but then if you press on it, it still falls apart. So check this out. This is what you're looking for. Squeeze it, holds its shape, press it, crumbles. Once you get to that stage, you're perfect. You're ready to go. So the last thing to do is to put it in your molds. So I have these 1 ounce molds, and I think 1 ounce is perfect for shower steamers. It gets you through 1 shower and really is big enough to get that menthol into the air, clear up those sinuses. Clear molds are great because you can see the bottom to make sure that they're filled up. Really easy, fill them up with your hands, and it would work better if I had a tamp, because tamping them down is really important. You definitely want to get that mold filled, and you want to get it compressed in there into a hard puck. So I just use my thumbs, squeeze it around, I check the bottom, the mold's full. Basically it, I'm done. Smooth out the back, try and make it nice and flat. This recipe makes about 13 ounces, so 13 1 ounce molds or 13 steamers. So I'm just going to do the other 12 here. All right, so that's all 12 of them. The only thing left to do now is to wait 24 hours. That way they'll be hard enough to unmold. And then the next day, here they are. Hey, that's a Pokemon. So flip it over, press around a little bit. Don't go too crazy because they're still kind of delicate at this point. It should fall right out. If it doesn't, well, I don't know. And set them aside. You probably want to wait about another 24 hours before using them, just to dry and harden up. They turn out great. I love these things. I use them in basically every shower now.